Did you hear that?
What is that? Look up there. Look up the ridge.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, oh, right here. You see it?
What are you seeing?
You didn't see it? Bigfoot has a certain section of the forest that they live, and they stay out.
May have been, and frankly still could be,
A family or a pod of Bigfoot that are living up here.
There's always been stories of something in those neck of the woods.
I just heard something.
Ronnie, what the is this?
It's spooky. Right now, I'm looking for anything that puts out a heat trace.
It's huge. This is the biggest heat signature I've ever seen.
Ronnie and Mireya are exploring a horrible hidden lake in the mountains at night, using night vision cameras to try and spot a legendary creature. They split up, each thinking that the creature might show up to drink from the lake. The whole footage is filmed like a thriller, with dark music and sharp edits to make it extra suspenseful. Russell, keeping an eye on things from a distance, flies a drone overhead to check for any heat signals from possible creatures. What did they find lurking in the dark woods? Let us dive into the off-limits tale of the haunted lake where the hikers found a strange creature who might be Bigfoot. Chasing myths in the dark. Despite all the advanced equipment and strategic planning, their actions are quite simple, walking through a forest and using their gadgets to interpret what they see as signs of life. The show relies on the audience believing these interpretations, encouraged by the suggestion of constant danger and new findings. Russell's idea to use human activity to push the creature toward the lake seems too straightforward and possibly ineffective. If the creatures are smart and hard to find as suggested, wouldn't they easily avoid such obvious traps? Perhaps the real goal is to keep the audience engaged with a story that seems exciting, even if it doesn't quite make sense. The drone, controlled by Russell's iPad, symbolizes the entire show. It's distant, not really touching the reality of the situation, just like the show, which doesn't deeply engage with the true nature of field research. It's like a modern magic trick, where technology tools are used to create an effect rather than provide real answers. The audience is left wondering if they saw something truly significant, or just a well-produced story meant to entertain rather than to inform. As Ronnie and Mireya leave the lake, it's unclear if their expedition was ever meant to find something, or just to keep the viewers hooked with the idea of uncovering the unknown, using a mix of technology and storytelling. The true goal might simply be to maintain interest in a show that blends the thrill of the hunt with the allure of unconfirmed tales, all packaged as a scientific quest. By Hidden Mountain Lake, Ronnie and Mireya are taking on their task from opposite sides. Each is equipped with fancy thermal cameras to see in the dark where Russell, overseeing their moves, cannot. As the overseer, Russell relies on them to keep her informed as they slowly make their way through the dense night. Mireya tiptoes through the wilderness, her steps deliberate and exaggerated like something out of a dramatic movie. She comes across branches twisted in ways that loudly hint at recent disturbances, perhaps a bit too conveniently for anyone's taste. The darkness is so complete that she might as well be blind, relying only on the tech at her disposal and the faint sounds around her. On the other side, Ronnie's path is a minefield of broken twigs, a natural comedy of errors waiting to trip him up. These minor hazards are scattered as though to deliberately slow him down, making each step a careful calculation to avoid injury. The threat of a simple twisted ankle looms large, slowing his progress to a meticulous crawl. Both adventurers stay in touch with Russell, who sits at the center of this nighttime operation. They update her regularly, their voices filled with the tension of an ongoing drama, providing her with the details she needs to monitor their progress through the shadowy landscape. Then, without warning, a loud noise cuts through the silence around Mireya. It's so jarring that she stops dead in her tracks. This sound, echoing ominously through the trees, forces her to reconsider everything. It's not just a noise, it's a moment that makes her deeply question the safety and purpose of their nocturnal endeavor. This night by the lake is turning into a bit of a spectacle. One might question whether all the high-tech equipment and the careful planning of their separate routes are really necessary, or if they're just part of a show, put on to make the task seem more important than it is. The drama of their situation, with its staged dangers and choreographed steps, seems designed to add a layer of excitement to what might otherwise be a straightforward task. Mireya paused in the woods, her attention caught by the subtle cracking noises drawing nearer. Everything around her seemed still, yet these sounds suggested something was moving through the underbrush. However, The cameraman, a seasoned follower of Mireya's forest treks, noticed something different. The noises, initially assumed to be from the ground, were actually coming from above them. This new piece of information added a twist to their day, but it hardly made Mireya more hopeful about their chances of finding something truly significant. She contacted Russell and Ronnie via radio, trying to keep her voice even as she explained what was happening. Leaves were falling around her, even though there was no wind. She asked if they had noticed anything out of the ordinary, to which Russell replied negatively, as expected. Mireya paused in the woods, her attention caught by the subtle cracking noises drawing nearer. Everything around her seemed still, yet these sounds suggested something was moving through the underbrush. However, the cameraman, a seasoned follower of Mireya's forest treks, noticed something different. The noises, initially assumed to be from the ground, were actually coming from above them. This new piece of information added a twist to their day, but it hardly made Mireya more hopeful about their chances of finding something truly significant. She contacted Russell and Ronnie via radio, trying to keep her voice even as she explained what was happening. Leaves were falling around her, even though there was no wind. She asked if they had noticed anything out of the ordinary, to which Russell replied negatively, as expected. The evening brings new tales as the team waits, a team's quest for hidden truths. Feeling irritated and curious, Mireya decided to stay where she was. She watched and listened intently, skeptical yet unwilling to move on just yet. She wondered if perhaps this time, something noteworthy might reveal itself. Meanwhile, Ronnie was inching toward the lake, moving so slowly and carefully it almost seemed comical. He was trying not to disturb the natural sounds around him, which added to the atmosphere of anticipation. Suddenly, he too heard movements in the woods. Eagerly, he radioed Russell to report his findings, although he half expected it to lead to nothing. As each team member stood apart in the woods, the area seemed to buzz with the sounds of unseen activity. Despite their hopeful searching and attentive listening, the reality they faced was likely filled with simple explanations. Animals scurrying unseen, branches falling naturally. Yet they continued their tasks, communicating over the radio. Each noise investigated with a professional skepticism, but also a faint hope. Russell, always careful, feels his anxiety spike as he stares at his monitor, trying to spot his team hidden by thick greenery. The forest's deep shadows make him uneasy about leaving his team unprotected. The silence around them is broken only by strange, indistinct noises that his teammates have mentioned, which only adds to his worry. He understands that the situation could turn dangerous fast, especially in the wild where any hidden danger could be lurking nearby. Ronnie, move back from the water, Russell immediately commands into the radio. His instruction to retreat isn't just for safety, it's a must. This careful move is driven by his knowledge of the potential dangers waiting in the unknown. Keeping his team safe is his top priority, and Russell is willing to sacrifice the excitement of their exploration to ensure everyone remains out of harm's way. Ron responds with a simple, "Got it," his voice slightly distorted over the radio. As he moves away, his footsteps mix with the rustling leaves, creating a soft, yet eerie sound that adds to the night's tense atmosphere. Mireya, with her binoculars at the ready, tries to make sense of what she's seen in the poorly lit woods. She's both scared and thrilled. This could be an important find, or it could be nothing more than their imaginations tricked by the shadows. The fact that she can't detect any heat from the movement makes it even harder to identify, frustrating her efforts. "Russell, there's something moving," she reports with a mix of hope and anxiety. "I can't make out what it is, but it's there." Her words hang in the air, signaling either potential danger or an important discovery, depending on how one sees it. Russell takes in her report with a serious expression. He considers what this could mean, each possibility more troubling than the last. Are they close to finding something big, or are they just being led by fleeting shadows, driven by their own need to make sense of random patterns? His doubt clashes with his curiosity, an internal struggle set against the backdrop of the shadowy forest and his scattered, exposed team. Deciding to move forward is a risk. Each step they take could lead to something significant or turn out to be a mistake, each observation adding another piece to a puzzle that doesn't want to be solved. As darkness grows, so does the challenge they face, a mix of unclear images and sounds, all just out of reach of true understanding. In the wild, the line between what's real and what's imagined blurs, pushing them to the edge of what they can handle. Russell knows that what matters most isn't just what they might discover. It's about getting through the experience together, maintaining their team bond, whether it gets stronger or starts to show signs of strain under the continuous strain of the uncertain. In a scene that might remind one of a drama-filled movie, Mireya spotted a dark shape moving close to them, similar to a previous incident with Ronnie. She reported that she couldn't see any warmth coming from it, a detail that usually suggests something's alive. Russell, always the one to keep a watchful eye from afar, quickly got on the radio. He told Mireya firmly to move away from the water and head toward the safety of the nearby trees. He was clear in his instructions: stay away from the suspicious movement near the water, which he felt was a danger zone. Mireya listened and began moving away from the shadowy area by the water as told. Meanwhile, Russell, likely safe and sound far from any potential harm, was not happy with what he was hearing and seeing. He considered the waterfront a risky place, perhaps hiding dangers they couldn't see. His voice over the radio carried a hint of annoyance, showing his displeasure with the situation. As Mireya retreated, the surroundings seemed to respond. The water stirred as though mocking their fear, and the rustle of the trees sounded like whispers on the wind. Yet it seemed Russell's main worry might not just be for his team's safety, but for keeping their mission on track. Unexplained shadows and strange noises in such a dim setting could throw off their plans or worse, lead to an operation filled more with errors and setbacks than any real findings. Russell's commands, cloaked in concern, had a tone that demanded quick action. Mireya, while acknowledging the potential dangers as Russell described, moved back slowly, as if she doubted the seriousness of the threat he felt so keenly from his distant vantage point. This interplay of cautious movements and stern commands played out under an indifferent sky, with each team member playing their role in a scenario filled with skepticism and a questioning attitude toward the unseen. The drama unfolded as if each moment were scripted, punctuated by their cautious actions and nature's subtle interplay. The night gets stranger as they press on, the search for hidden wildlife.
I see movement, but I'm not picking up a heat signature. Russ, come in.
Ronnie's night in the dark forest was growing increasingly uncomfortable. As he edged away from the water, the sounds around him seemed to grow louder, making the silence of the night feel more oppressive. Just then, Russell's voice came through the radio, his tone skeptical, asking if Ronnie was still hearing strange noises. Confirming this, Ronnie described a soft, repetitive rustling coming from his left. It seemed as though whatever was making the noise was trying very hard not to be noticed. Ronnie thought that the creature was probably trying to hide, moving with caution to avoid drawing attention. However, Russell seemed less convinced by this interpretation. He suggested that the creature might just be engaging in normal nighttime behaviors, nothing particularly sneaky or unusual. His matter-of-fact response hinted that he might be growing tired of what he perceived as an uneventful night, or perhaps he was simply skeptical of Ronnie's more anxious assumptions. As the two continued to discuss the sounds, Russell's more grounded approach contrasted sharply with Ronnie's tense speculations. Russell seemed to think that Ronnie was perhaps reading too much into the situation, interpreting every sound as a deliberate act of concealment. He implied that what Ronnie described as cautious stalking might just be an animal going about its regular nocturnal routine. Meanwhile, the forest around them remained a canvas of undefined noises, each snap of a twig or rustle of leaves adding layers to the evening's canvas. With visibility near zero, the dark shapes and shadows seemed to play tricks on their eyes, making the ordinary seem unnerving. The lack of clear visual confirmation left much to their imagination, filling the gaps with unease and speculation. Russell continued to counter Ronnie's tense observations with logical explanations, aiming to inject a sense of normalcy into the night's events. Yet the unknown sounds kept their conversation alive, weaving a narrative of contrasting views, one leaning towards the practical, the other edged with nerves. In this deep, shadow-filled forest, every little noise seemed amplified, blurring the line between mundane wildlife activities and the stirrings of something more elusive. While Russell maintained his cool, suggesting rational explanations for each sound, Ronnie's apprehension only grew, feeding into his narrative of a night filled with hidden movements and unseen presences. As the night wore on, the interplay between what was heard and what was imagined became the central theme of their expedition. With each passing moment, the environment seemed to echo back their differing perspectives, creating a complex interplay between man's instinctive fear of the unknown and the rational mind's attempt to dismiss it as nothing out of the ordinary. As Ronnie moves deeper into the forest, his team leader keeps pressing him to push further away, ensuring he stays safe and out of potential danger. Ronnie is instructed to update the team once he reaches a safer location. Meanwhile, Mireya, with binoculars in hand, is trying hard to make sense of the blurry shapes she sees moving. Her surprised gasp reveals she's looking at something incredibly large, bigger than any animal heat signature she's ever come across. Her excitement grows as she spots yet another heat signature nearby, suggesting not just one, but several large creatures lurking close by, only 100 yards into the woods. This situation presents a complex set of emotions for the team. They feel a twinge of fear because they don't know what these creatures are, or whether being so close to them is safe. Yet there's also an undeniable thrill about encountering something completely new and unexpected. Each piece of information Mireya relays adds to the team's nervous excitement. They find themselves in a delicate balance, fascinated by the possibility of discovering new wildlife, but also wary of the unknown dangers that might lurk in the forest. The team's skills are tested as they navigate this tricky situation, carefully weighing their curiosity against their need for safety. Every small sound or movement in the forest becomes a clue they must carefully consider. They know they must proceed with caution, as rushing into the unknown could be reckless. The thrill of potential discovery keeps them on edge, driving them to keep exploring despite the risks. They move slowly, alert to every whisper of the woods, aware that any moment could bring a revelation or a retreat. As they advance, the line between excitement and caution blurs, leaving them in a state of heightened alertness, ready to react at the slightest hint of danger or discovery. Mireya radioed Russell with news of large heat signals from the opposite side of her location. Her voice was filled with excitement over the possibility that there could be more than one creature hiding in the woods. This could mean there was a whole group of them, a prospect that would be significant for their research. "Okay, move straight to your right," she instructed, barely containing her eagerness. "There's something in front of me, peeking from behind a tree," she reported, her words tinged with a mix of excitement and caution. She described how these creatures seemed to be cautiously moving through the forest, occasionally peeking around the trees. It appeared they were aware of her presence, which made observing them more challenging. Their movements were careful, perhaps because they sensed danger from humans or simply because they were naturally shy. Russell, listening from the other end, was less quick to jump to conclusions. He knew from experience that excitement could cloud judgment, yet he couldn't entirely dismiss what Mireya was suggesting. The idea of discovering a whole group of these elusive creatures was intriguing because it could have major implications for their ongoing studies and might greatly expand what scientists know about the wildlife in the area. However, Russell reminded Mireya that they would need more concrete evidence. Heat signals are interesting, but they could mean anything from leftover warmth from animals active during the day to just glitches in our equipment, he pointed out practically. Deeper into the night, uncertainty and possibility collide. The silent strategy of hidden predators. Mireya understood his caution, though her cheeks were still flushed with the thrill of what they might find. She realized that the scientific community would require solid proof before accepting their findings about these creatures. The idea of being the first to document a possibly unknown species was thrilling, but proving it to the world required hard evidence and careful validation. As evening approached and the light began to fade, the forest seemed to welcome the cover of darkness, a perfect environment for creatures used to hiding. Every sound and movement in the underbrush seemed to Mireya like it could be a new clue, every whisper of the leaves a potential signal of hidden life nearby. Meanwhile, Russell maintained his watch from his base, his mind open yet cautious, providing a steadying influence to Mireya's eager anticipation. Together, they delved deeper into their exploration as dusk turned to night, each step a mix of skepticism and hope. Every discovery checked and rechecked in the quest to understand these hidden dwellers of the woods. Their conversation continued, with Mireya describing every detail she could discern through the dim light and her thermal imaging camera. Russell, in turn, documented her observations, making notes that could later be cross-referenced with visual evidence or physical signs like footprints or markings. Their collaboration was a dance of discovery and doubt, each observation a step closer to either a monumental find or a simple explanation of the shadows that danced at the edge of their vision. Mireya's voice comes through the radio again, filled with urgency as she explains her situation to Russell. She repeats her previous message, emphasizing the details, making sure Russell understands the seriousness of what's happening. Russell, however, tells her that because she's under a thick canopy of leaves, his drone can't spot her from above. His response, although factual, doesn't really help Mireya feel any better. Undeterred, Mireya reiterates her observations about the creatures. Initially, she had spotted 4 warm bodies through her thermal camera, clear signs of life in the darkness. But as she delves deeper into the situation, a concerning twist emerges. 2 of those heat signatures have suddenly disappeared. This startling change hints that these creatures are smart, possibly planning their movements with a level of intelligence that suggests they're more than just wild animals. This realization is troubling for Mireya. With only 2 creatures now visible, the fact that the other 2 have slipped away unseen suggests they could be moving into strategic positions. This thought alone escalates her concern. These creatures have excellent night vision, allowing them to watch her and her cameraman without being seen themselves. Russell, sensing Mireya's increasing worry, finally takes action and contacts Ronnie, hoping for some backup or advice. But Mireya feels that Russell's reaction might be too late. The idea that these creatures could be coordinating their actions, possibly surrounding her in silence, makes her even more anxious. As Mireya stands hidden under the trees, her fear grows. What started as a simple wildlife observation has turned into a tense and dangerous situation. She's now acutely aware of the risks. She's in a vulnerable spot, potentially surrounded by intelligent predators that know how to use the cover of darkness to their advantage. Every little sound in the dark forest seems louder to Mireya now. Each snap of a twig or rustle of leaves might mean that the unseen creatures are closing in. The dark no longer feels natural, but threatening, filled with potential dangers that lurk just out of sight. Mireya's only hope is that Russell's call to Ronnie brings some much-needed help. The situation is no longer just an observation. It's a survival scenario, where staying unnoticed by these cunning creatures is crucial to making it through the night safely. Russell, who often worries too much, makes it clear he's not happy about the danger Mireya is in. It's the kind of trouble that would make anyone uneasy. He quickly tells Ronnie to turn around and rush to where Mireya is. Ronnie, sounding as if he's heard this all before, quickly agrees to follow Russell's orders without much discussion. Ronnie knows he has to be careful. He's on the other side of a lake, which might seem like a safe distance, but he's aware that the hostile creatures in the area probably know he's there. These creatures are known for their cunning and might be planning to surprise him when he least expects it. Meanwhile, Mireya suddenly hears a disturbing noise very close to her. She gasps and starts calling out for Ronnie, her voice filled with panic. She sounds scared, and it's clear she's in real trouble. The situation makes you wonder why they decided to be in such a dangerous place. Was it a mistake or a poorly thought out plan? Time is running out for them, and the lake, which once seemed like a protective barrier, now feels more like a strategic mistake, doing nothing but watching the drama unfold. As the tension increases, Ronnie moves quickly but quietly through the area, knowing he needs to get to Mireya fast. He moves like a shadow, blending in with the trees and the sounds of the wind and rustling leaves. He's like a warrior alone in a dangerous land, aware of every sound and movement around him. Back where he's safe, Russell's warnings keep ringing in the air, reminding them of the danger that is always close but unpredictable. It's a tough situation for everyone involved, and the pressure is building. The peaceful setting of the lake contrasts sharply with the urgent, dangerous task at hand. Mireya keeps calling out for Ronnie, her voice echoing around the area, making the silence that follows each call even more intense. Ronnie is doing his best to be fast and silent, hoping to reach her before anything bad happens. The creatures could be anywhere, watching and waiting. It's a race against time, and every second feels crucial. As darkness deepens, danger and courage meet. The danger of the midnight Trey Del Russell, far from the direct danger but emotionally invested, waits anxiously for updates. He knows the risks but feels helpless as he stands back and lets Ronnie handle the immediate threat. Everyone's nerves are on edge, and the once calm lake now seems like a small part of a much bigger, more dangerous world. Mireya called Ronnie, her voice tense as she tried to see through the darkness. "Ronnie, are you the one walking around here?" His reply came from far away, confirming he was still on the other side of the lake. This made Mireya's heart race. She wasn't hearing her friend, but something else was moving in the shadows. She lifted her binoculars to her eyes, hoping to spot whatever was out there. But she saw nothing. Whatever was moving was too clever or too hidden to be seen. The thought struck her that the fallen logs they had passed earlier might not have been a simple obstacle. Perhaps they were a warning, meant to tell people to keep out. Mireya half wondered if Ronnie was pulling a prank. He loved a good joke, especially one that might scare her, but Russell's confirmation of Ronnie's location shot that idea down. Ronnie really was too far to be messing with her right now. "Back up slowly," Russell instructed sternly over the phone. Mireya began to step back, her eyes glued to the dense trees that seemed to close in around her. The smart move was to get away from whatever was out there. The sounds grew louder as she backed up, the night noises feeling like they were closing in around her. Every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs seemed perfectly timed to scare her. It was as if the forest knew she was afraid and enjoyed it. Mireya knew she shouldn't be so scared. After all, it was just nature. But being alone, with darkness enveloping her and her instincts screaming at her, made it hard to stay calm. As she continued to retreat, her mind raced with every scary story and cautionary tale she knew. What was out there? Were these creatures known to the area? Or was it something worse? Not being able to see them only made her imagination run wild. The dark wasn't just a lack of light now, but a cover for all sorts of dangers that might be lurking just out of sight. Yet part of her was excited, despite the fear. This was like being in a real-life thriller, more intense than any movie or book. Every shadow and sound added to her own personal drama, making her feel like she was the star of her own scary movie. The longer she walked, the more her fear mixed with a strange kind of acceptance. She was in her own adventure, and if she was going to get out, she had to face the challenges head on. She might be scared, but she was also ready to face whatever came her way. She became more confident as she walked. She started to think of herself not just as a potential victim in a horror story, but as a brave character, ready to tackle whatever challenge the night threw at her. The noises might be just the wind, or animals, or something scarier, but she was determined to face them boldly. Whatever happened, she would be the hero of her own story, ready for whatever ending came her way. Mireya is visibly upset and asks the cameraman about the loud sounds echoing through the trees. They both hope it's Ronnie making the noise because it's unnerving to think otherwise. When Mireya calls Ronnie, a wave of relief hits her as he confirms he's heading their way. Once together, they quickly let Russell know they are safe. Russell is glad to hear it, emphasizing that staying together can help keep them safe in the unpredictable woods. As they move forward, Ronnie and Mireya keep their voices low, aware that something else might be out there with them. This latest episode excites those who follow the Expedition Bigfoot series, especially those who are fascinated by creatures yet to be confirmed by science. The idea that multiple unknown creatures could be living nearby is thrilling to viewers. It suggests the team could be close to a significant discovery, potentially challenging our understanding of which species are the most intelligent on Earth. But the excitement of such a discovery comes with its own set of problems. Identifying a new species, especially one as hidden and possibly dangerous as Bigfoot, involves ethical considerations and safety risks. Despite these encounters, the true nature of the creature remains elusive, only seen briefly on camera, and never clearly. The team's journey continues to be a major part of the show, with Russell guiding his team through the challenges of their exploration. They aim to document their findings and share them globally, driven by a mix of curiosity and the thrill of the hunt. Yet one has to consider what they are pursuing. Is it a groundbreaking discovery, or just a wild chase after something that may not even exist? Their commitment is undeniable, but the balance between discovery and disturbance is delicate, especially when dealing with something as potentially sensitive as a new creature. The reality of Bigfoot remains just out of clear view, fueling both the convictions of those who believe and the skepticism of doubters. This quest not only stirs excitement among viewers, but also raises questions about what it means to discover something truly unknown. The implications of such a discovery extend beyond the thrill of the hunt to broader considerations about the relationship between humans and nature. As Russell's team presses on, the line between exploration and exploitation blurs, leaving viewers to ponder the true cost of such adventures. What do you think? Is the search for Bigfoot a necessary pursuit of knowledge or a risky disturbance of nature? Like, comment, and subscribe to join the discussion.